I'm so excited. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special occasion for Redheaded Stepchild. My name is Malaika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild, where we only take poems that have been rejected elsewhere. I'm super excited because this is a collaboration for Down East Flick Fest with Celestine Davis. It's their 10th year anniversary, and today we are so blessed to be in the company of not only poets, but poets who are filmmakers, who are creative artists, who are actors and actresses, and it's just an amazing group of talent. When you start reading these bios and seeing some of the clips of films that we get to watch tonight, and some also full films, you're going to understand that we are very fortunate tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to be pretty straightforward and just moving from artist to artist, from filmmaker to filmmaker. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat section, because afterwards we're going to have our usual open discussion. This is a pretty relaxed group, and I welcome you all tonight for being here. Thank you. We're going to start with Ann Seco, and I'm just going to read a little bit about her, and then I'm going to tell you just kind of an overview of what we'll be seeing. Ann Seco is a poetry, film, video maker, writer, and educator based in Western Massachusetts. One of the things I really liked about Inundations is how it's very meditative. And one person said, this is an American traveler meditates upon the unsettling discovery that climate change has transformed rivers, towns, and roads of the Northeast into floodlands. This film offers a video poetic tribute to the environment and the largely displaced Indigenous peoples, their natural stewardship, creation stories, and evocative place names. We get to, and Anne, I just want to welcome you. I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and we get to watch a bit of Inundations. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we can feel free to clap, guys. Don't feel like you have
absolutely. That was great stuff.
Yes, right? I think we're going to be saying that after
amazing.
every film. And so, yes.
Beautiful
Okay.
images.
Kevin, you just asked a very great question. When a video is being played, are the rest of us visible to the viewers? And I don't think so. I can't see anybody. Can anybody else? That's a good question.
I see.
Thank you, Anne.
Side, and the screen is taking up most of the screen. That's what I see.
Yeah, there's a gallery, vertical gallery on the side.
Oh, there is. Okay, mine's not showing a vertical gallery, but that's interesting. It's showing just the screen. I'm going to move on to Shamala Dason, and I want to really point out something amazing here. She is a poet, and she has been a part of our Thursday Redheaded Stepchild group for a long time, and I'm super glad that she did this. This was her very first video poem. Shamala is a writer, poet, developmental editor, and writing coach. She is a first-generation immigrant from Malaysia, a cancer survivor, and a former NASA tech. Her writing centers on belonging and unbelonging in family and immigrant life. Her editing and coaching on helping writers hone their craft and find their best stories. Her own writing has appeared in many different places, including the Massachusetts Review, the Margins, a post 9/11 war anthology, Duinda, the Gateway Review, and many others. She's a finalist for the Flannery O'Connor Short Fiction Collection Award and a Hyphen Short Fiction Award. Her poetry chapbook, I'm so excited, and we will be celebrating on Thursday. Her poetry chapbook, which is called Carrying the Ocean, is forthcoming from Finishing Line Press. This is an invitation to grief. Thank you, Shamala.
Invitation to grief.
come to the ocean at Monterey, please? On a winter's day. It will be wicked cold. Come naked anyway. I want to understand all of you. Want to wash us all over in the water. Let breakers push us off our feet. Then conquer the undertow of the riptide. Or else be swept out to sea and drowned, to resurrect as something new. Brown pelicans will swoop over us. Seals dance in the waves, ignoring us. See, tiny shorebirds scurry back and forth, busy, not noticing us. We do not matter to the tapestry of life, are only one creature among many creatures. Perhaps we will come out of the water with a banquet, built together on driftwood fire of harvested salt-rich superfood greens and accepted bounty of shellfish that died to feed us. I read this into the wind, knowing you can hear me, being everywhere and nowhere. Take on a body brown like me, with too much unruly hair, and come. Crystallize yourself out of the wind, soften and warm into life. Speak with me. Explain the riddles of absence, hunger, need, where there is plenty all around, an ocean of plenty. And if you don't, the cold is bliss too. So I tell you, I will practice feeling bliss in freezing. I tell you, do not mask the presence, immanence of that bliss with absences. Losses that mean, at the very core, there are things good enough to miss, worth the pain. Do not dare try to make me forget this. When you come, I shake. Wind, no doubt, or possibly awe, knowing you have more power than I. But knowing also the ocean will feed salt life into me if we quarrel.
Oh, Shamala, I am stuck on the line. There are things good enough to miss. Oh, that hit me. Yes, wow. I mean, the chat section, it's hard to get to the chat section because I keep getting stuck in the movie. Our next artist that we're spotlighting is Victor Jimenez. Jimenez was born in Havana, Cuba in 1965. He is a television and film creative producer as well as a writer, which you will see. Oh, Anne got booted out. Let's let her in. In the audiovisual field, he has worked on advertising, short films, video poetry, and documentaries, some of which have been recognized at international film festivals. His poetry has been featured in various magazines across the United States, Europe, and Latin America. He is the author of the poetry collections Seven Cities and Illusorium, and his manuscript Alien Creature was a finalist at the 2016 National Poetry Series Translation Award. Primera Paz. Currently, he resides in Miami. His film is Echoes of the Pandemic, and I really wanted to read his lovely poet, filmmaker statement, because to me, this fits so clearly with the work that he's doing. As a poet filmmaker, I combine poetry, memories, music, and images to create a visual tapestry. Using my iPhone, I capture fleeting moments. And with the echoes of distant memories, my video poems are like a mixtape of the soul, aiming to transcend borders and invite viewers to immerse themselves in poetry. And I really feel like that speaks to the heart of his work. Victor,
you.
I'm going.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
I'm
your
trying to share
for your
screen and
work.
it's not. Oh, Victor, all of y'all have just blown me away completely. And y'all will see why with this next one too. It was just such a pleasure to be able to do this.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Or the mudslide.
En los días eternos de la pandemia, Miami se vistió de silencio. Sus calles, antes llenas de vida, se sumieron en la soledad. Aquí, en la ciudad en cuarentena, la quietud se adueñó de cada rincón.
No quiero una muerte digna. No quiero que me rescaten de las calles. No quiero morir una muerte seria de enfermera y confesión. Quiero morirme de amor, de risa, de asfixia literaria. Quiero una muerte simbólica, que me lleve en un último acto poético, casi desesperado, a morir con una semilla atravesada en la garganta.
Como un eco en la distancia, la pandemia resuena, dejando su estela de muerte y de palabras no dichas. El virus se apodera de esta ciudad que calla.
En esta tarde soporífera comienzo una aventura itinerante sin salir de casa. Atormentado porque me falta un cigarrillo, he querido hablar con las paredes de mi deseo de viajar por este mundo. Antes que la noche me castigue con sus preguntas, le pido a la tarde que no se hunda todo bajo esta falsa sensación de libertad. Porque hoy es jueves. Siento miedo. Miedo a la quietud infinita de la lluvia puntual de marzo. En estos días sin retorno, respiro profundo y me olvido de las montañas de Chechenia.
Una ciudad de contrastes que se reinventa, que encuentra su voz en el silencio.
La noche es una puerta misteriosa, un animal dormido, un canto huracanado. En la noche se cobijan los asombros, los silencios donde pueden sonar todos los ruidos del alma. Una puerta en la noche nos habla. Es una grieta, una herida que invade el sueño.
No need to pray.
They were all severely injured.
In the days.
Miami esconde una belleza peculiar, una historia en cada casa deshabitada, en nuestros muertos de COVID-19. La poesía vive en este instante que se escapa para seguir fluyendo a pesar del desastre. Incluso cuando las calles se llenen de vida nuevamente.
You
Lugares
bring me
olvidados,
on the sun.
agua caleta, flamboyante,
You stole
humedad del techo,
sun from my
aguacero de mayo, aguacero de
and
mayo,
now we are people.
lugares olvidados,
Now
lugares olvidados,
I'm so cold.
agua caleta, flamboyante, humedad del techo, humedad del techo, aguacero de mayo, aguacero de mayo, casa ruinosa, pulpo, gato, erizo, olor a café, montaña de basura. Aguacero de mayo, aguacero de mayo, aguacero de mayo, casa ruinosa, pulpo, gato, erizo, olor a café, montaña de basura.
I saw 16 messages popping up. Wow. Yes. I love our chat section. Yes, it's just stunning.
Well,
Victor, thank you so
Thank
very
you,
much.
guys. I didn't know we have a chat section. Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be sending that to everybody because you're going to want to see people's responses. So I'll make sure all y'all get a copy of that. I am just, already there's so much discussion I know we could have, but we're going
I
to
got
keep
it.
moving on. Please put any questions for Victor. And yeah, it's stunning, right? And you can see why that artist statement really for me was so important for that piece because it's just the exact feeling of immersion. Now we're moving to collaborators, Mikhail Cole and Abrama, who both are here. And I want to read both y'all's bios and then just we're going to watch just 2 minutes of this, but I feel bad for you guys because you're only getting 2 minutes. I'm so sorry. Same with Ann's. I'm so sorry, but go out and find these artists and find a way to watch the whole thing. Mikhail Cole is a Dutch filmmaker and director of the spoken word films Awake and The Journey Alone, shot in Los Angeles, where he explores the boundaries of conventional narrative techniques. Collaborating with Brahma T. Ramsadit, who make sure y'all check out the chat section so you can connect with all these artists and poets and actors and filmmakers. With a background in corporate film industry, Mikhail now teaches filmmaking at the Universities of Applied Sciences. Growing up, he developed a deep love, and you'll see this, for both American and European Westerns and a fan of Clint Eastwood. You'll know. About Brahma, spoken word artist from the Netherlands. One of his quotes that I really love, "Together we've got a story to tell. Let's spread the word." Brahma knows how to combine business strategy with artistic flair, perhaps quite logical with 15 plus years of experience in the advertising industry, while at the same time honing himself as an entertainer, host, singer, MC, actor, guest lecturer, and marriage official. I'm keeping that in my head. Voiceover and spoken word artist. He is a storyteller by all means, winning an LA Video Music Award in 2022 together with his director, Mikhail Cole, for their first spoken word movie, Waker. Through copywriting and concepting, Brahma helped national and international brands to find their voice. Now he's on a roll, sharing taking the world on a tour through his eyes. You're about to get 2 minutes of The Road Alone, or They Talk Aline, and I probably butchered that. Somebody will help me with that.
De tocht
And I
alleen.
get Die Talk Aline. Thank you.
I love that.
I love hearing that. And I am sorry you only get 2 minutes, but it's a good 2 minutes, babes.
Ik zal je liefde niet vergeten. Weet dat je steeds wordt vergeleken met elke schoonheid die ik tegenkom. Weet dat ik jouw gezicht zie bij elke nieuwe hartesprong. Dat is niet eerlijk, maar dat is wel zoals het is. Even landde je in mijn liefdesleven, maar voor altijd blijven je sporen onuitgewist.
Sorry, guys. You don't get to see what happens. That's a hard one. Oh, wow. Yeah, you got caught up, didn't you? I'm sorry. It's fabulous. I love how each approach is going to give us so much rich material for talking about, like, how they come about creating their work and engagement with poetry. It's fabulous. Thank y'all so very much. So I'm going next to another collaboration. We have Kevin Mayer here, and I'm going to read his bio, and then hey Kevin, thank you so much for being here. And again, talking about the range, this one's called Dracula's Super Scary Halloween. Kevin Mayer is an Emmy-nominated writer, comedian, filmmaker, and award-winning poet. He wrote the picture book and animated film Santa Doesn't Need Your Help, which screened at Deaf by the Way. There it is. In 2022, it was screened at Down East Flick Fest. We will get to go to, I wanted to say one more thing. Yeah, one more thing. One of the people said about, I love this, Richard Hartland Smith, who's with the movie Morlocks, called Dracula's Super Scary Halloween, a delightfully ghoulish gothic escapade with an important message that isn't a pain in the neck. So, with that introduction, I will head towards Dracula's Super Scary Halloween. There we go.
Dracula's Super Scary Halloween. The werewolves were howling on Halloween night, while skeletons danced in the spooky moonlight. The goblins and ghouls had been out for all hours, flaunting their foul supernatural powers. And watching it all, Count Dracula laughed. He was in for the night. Now it's time for my bath. But inside the tub, he got scared for new reasons. He discovered a lump in his nether regions. In his heart, he felt fear. In his brain, he felt glum. Worst of all, he felt something there in his scrotum. It was hard as a stone. It was round like a pea. So he stayed up till 4, reading through WebMD. The next evening he woke, it felt like a bad dream. Now he wanted to cry, and he needed to scream. He felt sick to his stomach. A chill ran down his back. Curse the unwanted bump that I found in my sack. The Count met with a doctor that very same day. They tested his testes and took an X-ray. They planned a procedure and hoped for removal, but first they would need his insurance approval. Soon the doctor stepped out to consult with her nurse, so Dracula waited and imagined the worst. This fear isn't fun. This terror's too real. It's too much for me. I just cannot deal. Panic set in and the visit was done. They said to be patient. Take each day one by one. As Drac walked on alone, he focused on healing. But once he got home, he ate all his feelings. He ate saltines and salsa and laughing cow cheese. He crammed cupcakes and Fritos and Chef Boyardees. He ate fistfuls of cake mix, grabbed a bag of red vines, then made an exception and washed it down with some wine. Despite his best efforts, the feeling did persist. And that ball in his throat, it was like a tight fist. This just isn't fair. He let out a cry. I don't want to be sick. I'm too young to die. Am I being punished? Am I under a curse? Or is this just random? I don't know which is worse. His mind filled with memories, his eyes filled with tears, recalling rivalries from the past 500 years. They'd charged at his castle in all-out attacks, with torches and garlic and religious knickknacks. He had escaped these assassins throughout his career. Now he'd come face to face with the worst of his fears. All the ways I could die, of every way I could go, to be mocked, to be slain by a microscopic foe. The depression hit hard. He sank into a slouch. There was no getting up from this sectional couch. Inside the famous vampire, an emptiness grew. There was still so much more that I'd wanted to do. Drac got his chemo and received radiation. He journaled each day and practiced mindful meditation. After 26 weeks, he'd done all that he could, and the doctors declared his prognosis looked good. If you'll pardon the phrase, it felt like a new dawn, for the treatment had worked. Now the tumor was gone. And the next Halloween, Dracula felt enchanted. The evening was magic. He took nothing for granted. Thanks to medical science and the care of his friends, he'd been given one more chance. Yes, his world did not end. Now his mind was at peace, and his heart, it felt free, and his life could go back to how it used to be. And the moral he shared, the advice he suggested. Don't forget to get screened. Don't be scared to get tested.
Oh, this is so much fun. Oh, sorry, guys.
Drac.
Yay. I'm gonna let Laura in. I hate to let her in late, but we will let her in. She's missed so many good things. That's so sad. Oh, thank you guys. I know y'all must be enjoying this as much as I am, because it's amazing to see creativity and the rivers that it flowed. Yes, Shamala just wrote now, this is the way to write about cancer. I am going to our next to last poet filmmaker that we get to feature, and it's Justin. And Justin, I have you as co-host so that you can share your piece. So it's all yours.
If you just want to show that.
And I'm going to read your bio real quick, but I'm going to spotlight you. So if that's okay, I think that's probably the best way to do it. So it'll be so you can share it right afterwards. Just a little bit about Justin. Justin is a North Carolina poet, and I'm super excited because he's not far from Kieran. We're really glad to have Justin Mex here. He's a writer and filmmaker. He lives in Durham, North Carolina. He wrote and performed in a humorous spoken word short film, which was called 9 Brief Films from Suburban Zen, which appeared in festivals nationwide and won Best Overall Spoken Word Production at Longleaf Film Festival in his hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. His animated film, The Hot Air Balloon, was screened at the 23rd River Run International Film Festival, which touts itself as one of the premier film festivals in the southeastern United States. That same animated piece, The Hot Air Balloon, made its international premiere in Melbourne, Australia in late 2022. More recently, 3 short films inspired by personal essays have screened at festivals across the United States, including New York, New Jersey, Florida, and California, while one, Paranoid, was a semifinalist in the Filmhouse Film Festival in Berlin, Germany. At the same time, his new children's film, which is titled Triangle Rectangle, was an official selection of the Los Angeles International Children's Film Festival and was subsequently invited to screen at the Regeneration International Youth Film Festival, which was in Melbourne, much like Hot Air Balloon was debuted there. His new spoken word film, which is what we get to see a portion of today. I'm sorry you didn't get to see the whole thing. It's titled, I Don't Have Anything to Say. It recently began its film festival run with an official selection, obviously here at DEF. That's why we're celebrating. Justin has also produced several collections of poetry and is presently at work on a series of middle grade school books and a historical novel. You can learn more about Justin at justinmeeks.com, and hopefully that's in the chat section. All yours. Thank you, Justin, for handling this. Welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. It says sharing is not turned on. If you just want to show that first poem again,
Fabulous. We can do it that way. That's
That
a
was what I
perfectly,
did for a trailer anyway.
yeah, okay, that works great for me. I've got it ready. Thank you. And again, I feel kind of guilty because I've got to see all of these. But you get a taste, and that's a beautiful thing.
Piano Man. I had something come up recently that made me realize there are only a few things I still want to do in life. Most of them are pipe dreams, but one is not. It's much more practical. It doesn't take money, publicity, or luck. It's learning to play the piano in my living room. The problem is I'd need to spend an hour per day to learn how to play. Maybe that's not the problem. The problem is that I'm spending my 1 free hour per day working on pipe dreams. I'm not sure what that says about me. Maybe I just love to suffer. Maybe I have the need to create even when I'm destined to fail. Or maybe I'm secretly optimistic, thinking I'll eventually beat the odds. God knows plenty of people will tell you it's inevitable. Follow your dreams and such. But how far and until what, when it would be so much easier to find satisfaction in learning a few jazz standards or classical works, regardless of how much it starts to hurt?
Awesome. Oh, this is so much fun. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, I know. I know people have so many questions. Thank you for being patient so that we get to see the whole range, and then we can have really open discussion. Because I know after the first film, we could have easily spent the rest of the time talking, because that is that's what moves us. Our final film that we get to see a portion of, I'm going to read Bill Richardson's bio a little bit. Bill Richardson is an award-winning author and filmmaker with over 100 awards, an artist and nationally recognized historian. He has written, produced, and directed feature films, TV series, documentaries, commercials, and shorts. His movies have won awards in 20 countries on 5 continents. He's published fiction and nonfiction via Random House and others. His books can be found on Amazon. And include adult fiction, children's books, humor, and graphic novels. He has appeared on numerous shows, including American Pickers. I actually love this list. Mysteries at the Museum, America Fact or Fiction, CBS This Morning, PBS's American Experience, and NPR's All Things Considered. He's been quoted in hundreds of newspapers, including the New York Times, USA Today. His documentaries are being used as teaching tools as well with Carnegie Mellon, US Berkeley. His work has been supported by National Endowment for the Arts and is in the US Library of Congress holdings. He has been an actor in internationally released feature films and a featured speaker all over the US and in Europe. Bill is a professor emeritus at Western Virginia University and a member of the Horror Writers Association. I'm gonna show you first. Welcome, Bill. Thank you so much. I say I'm so sorry you don't get to see the whole thing, but you know where to find them. I'm going to first show the poster that was created for the Gospel of Gabriel, and then I will show you a brief trailer. So that is the poster. And then we will go to the trailer.
This is a little something called The Gospel of Gabriel by Bill Richardson. Tell it, brother. I played like my life depended on it. I played like there was no tomorrow. I played like it was all that mattered, because it was.
That's all you get. That's awesome. If we want to all unmute and just take a moment to really honor, and you can see why these were all winners in the Down East Flick Fest. I mean, what an amazing group of talented poets and filmmakers. Thank you guys so very much. That's so much fun.
Those are some great films. You've got a great group there.
isn't it impressive? I mean, I think that everybody's input, the range is just incredible. So feel free, if you have a question for a specific filmmaker or poet, please jump in. Yeah. Passage of a trumpet is what Kevin, yeah, just wow. Feel free to, engage in dialogue or ask questions. I'll start because I have to really ask, how did you, this is open to everybody. As a poet, I can't picture it in a film format. So I really would love to hear about that process from poet filmmakers. Yes. How do you, oh gosh. Kevin, I love this question. I might skip to this. This was a question for the poets. How do you navigate the solitude of writing with the collaboration of filmmaking? Anybody have a thought with that? Yeah, jump in. Anybody?
I can jump in. This is Anna Shechko. So as for the collaborative dimension, I make very DIY work. So it is ultimately all solo. I direct, write, produce, animate, film, edit, narrate, and score. And even in that tiny teaser trailer, you heard a little bit of my accordion playing and keyboard. So for me, I guess I'm going to amalgamate those two questions. Poetry filmmaking is co-creative with the poetry writing is co-creative with the video making, and they kind of dually inspire each other, spar with each other. So my particular piece's genesis was in a lived experience that I couldn't, for ethical reasons, because it dealt with flood and people suffering. I felt I couldn't turn the camera on them. So I kind of logged the experience in my memory. And then the poetry gestated there with the images and the tableau that I created through animation, etc.
Wow. I love hearing that response. And I almost felt like what you were saying was it's two voices in collaboration with each other, the voice of filmmaking and the voice of poetry, in kind of like a conversation with each other. And I hadn't really thought of it that way. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're saying, but it was lovely. And also, just have to, what is in y'all's water that you're so multi-talented? I consider it, a gift if I've moved a period from one line to the next. I am just impressed.
Well, one of the
anybody?
challenges
Yeah.
is finding the poetry of the image to go with the poetry of the verse. And you see all these filmmakers doing that in different ways. Some of them very, very planned out. Some of them sort of very inspirational. But that's the key, is to figure out what are the poetic images to go with the poetic verse. And you see a lot of different approaches to that in this group.
I also believe, getting back to that question, like the whole thing on solitude. By the way, the subs of our movie aren't now inserted in the movie. I can put them in the chat because that was missing now in the video. So you just saw the filmmaking part, and that brings me to my great my great director that I'm working with. I think Michiel and I both respect our own solitude. So when he needs to do his stuff, I know he needs the freedom to do his stuff, and I need to trust his expertise, his craft, his creativity. I need to let him be. And in the same way, he lets me be in my solitude when I write stuff. And by respecting it, you get the best product. And when you're collaborating, it will always be less of you because it will be more of you together. So that is something you have to respect for yourself and have to accept. But at the same time, you can respect the solitude the other one needs. And for us, that works, superbly.
Yeah, because this is your second collaboration, you two together, Michiel and Brahma. Oh, third? Oh my
So,
goodness.
sort of the first one was more of a commercial thing we did, but this is our second fully art project on our own.
and I would love to see the film also, you know, with the text, but I have to tell you, I felt like I understood everything. I did. No, I
dropped it.
don't, but I really felt that. I mean, I felt like it was very consistent with other ways of looking at narrative, you know, and I felt moved and like I understood a plot, like I understood the emotions that you, Brahma, were inhabiting.
Yeah,
So
maybe
kudos.
yeah, thanks.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I see Justin wants to add.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'd like to hear how Kevin navigates it, who put the question out. Because I'll say for me, the solitude of writing has bled into my films such that all the films that I've made that are narratives are myself and one actor. And I've not wanted to expand beyond that after some early experiences with trying to corral a bunch of people and make it happen. So I'd love to hear how you brought together that team to create what you worked on.
I'm really lucky because similar to some of the other filmmakers that have done multiple collaborations, the team that did the Dracula movie, we had all worked together on a Santa movie, and it was such a learning process getting to work on that. And so often, like I would send the words to the illustrator, and he would draw it in a way that was not what I initially had in mind. And, you know, every time it was much better. It was much better than if I'd been storyboarding it or just drawing it myself. The editor came up with choices that are different than I would have done. So it's, I guess it's like I write it on my own, but then I need to like go to the other people and share drafts and talk about it. And I am not I'm because I'm working with people I trust, I'm willing to get their input. And I think that's a really important part of the process, because I think when I was younger, I was like, no, I know exactly the way this needs to be because I'm right about everything. And it's been so great getting to work with people who I really trust and respect and admire, so that when they bring stuff to the table. And I have to mention, one of my favorite details was there was a line like, oh, and Dracula goes to the doctor, and the illustrator, he made the doctor a woman. And that, I didn't have that written down. I was like, that's great. I need to change him to a her. And it was one of the things I was so happy with, like just small details, big details, so many things. I really enjoy the collaborative process, but I do think writing poetry, sometimes people think of it as being very solitary. So I was just curious about what each of you have gone through with that.
Yeah, well, I do it all myself because I work cheap.
Well, yeah, me too. Zero budget. No budget at all. iPhone.
Okay, but Victor, you know, when I read that you did this with your iPhone, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
And with the help of my wife, she's upstairs. She did on my scene. She did the camera work with the iPhone. I have a tripod for the iPhone, couple of gadgets for the iPhone, but basically it's done with an iPhone. Yeah. And in this case, the idea came last year, actually, because I did have all this footage that I shot because during the pandemic, I was considered an essential worker because I work for NBC University. So every night I have to go to the station and do, you know, my job. So I utilized that time to shoot random stuff that it was interesting to me. So to make it short, all that footage, I didn't know what to do with it. All right. So I did write some poems during the pandemic. And in this case, I just came with the idea. One thing I love also is documentary films. I have done documentary films in the past, and I've been writing since I was a kid, poetry, especially, okay? And I studied film and television, but I love poetry. So it's natural for me to put them together, both of them, film and poetry. So right now I have no budget, basically no people that I can count to work with. So I work with my wife. And the idea was, okay, let's do it documentary style. That's why my wife, she's an actress, by the way. She did the voiceover that we wrote. She's my best critic. And I don't want to make it long. So what you see was done between my wife and I with zero budget.
Some of the stills from your film, if you just took the still or even a section of the still, it's like that could be a painting in a museum. So
I also love art. Thank you very much.
that much imagery, that good.
But no, I'm not good at all painting.
I love the dialogue that Justin kind of started with, like with the balance. And this is kind of what Rama and Mikkel and Kevin and Justin were speaking to, is that balance between, what is, a solitude or solitary act, and how do you move into collaboration? And it sounds like everybody finds what works for them. I mean, Victor and his wife are, collaborating on this. And then Justin, you're kind of saying that for you, it's a project. And Anne was saying the same thing, where the poetry and the images become, in dialogue with each other. And I think Bill said it, I'm not sure who said this, but I love the idea of the poetry in the images. I hope that is something I kind of want to stick with, is that idea that the images themselves have poetry. Does anybody else have a question? Or yes,
well, I'll just throw in, mine was very minimal, done with, that constraint when you're making a piece of art, that you say you work within a set of constraints and that defines what you create. So I don't know how to make film. And it was what could be learned and done. I walk around with an iPhone on those cliffs in Monterey all the time. I wrote a poem out there on a terribly cold day, and that environment was in the poem. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to try doing a video poem. I have this footage. What can I do? And got hold of a friend who is a musician and could help with the sound part and make, the odd car disappear and the seals come out. So, but real serious collaborations and letting that other dimension grow would be fascinating. Hard though, I think, to give up that control. Thank you all for sharing the stories.
Good collaborators make you better. That's what happens.
Say it again, Bill.
Good collaborators make you better. Bad collaborators make you worse, but good collaborators make you better.
Awesome. And so I have two questions that I really want to make sure we get. I love this dialogue because there's so much that's sparking. Regina asked, are there any apps that you might specifically utilize to help you achieve the complex imagery that you utilized? Yeah. So does anybody have any apps or things that they would recommend?
Oh, yes, I do.
Regina?
I work with a lot of a few apps, but my final draft or edit is done in the on Avid Media Composer. That's the final cut, like I said. But before my images, for example, the squares and all that, I do it on the phone with I got different apps. My phone is full of apps to work on video and pictures. So I do that first, and then when it's done, like a rough cut, I move it to the desktop Avid Media Composer. But I would like to have my phone. My wife has it, but it has all the apps. I can send the apps to you later on.
If you do, I'll make sure everybody gets it. Thank you, Victor. That would be
Yes,
amazing, because I have a lot of people.
I will send it via email. I will send you an email.
And I'm going to throw it out there again. Perfect. Just a reminder, I said it earlier, this is a group that would be interested in a workshop. So if anybody here likes pitching the idea of teaching a workshop, we will make that happen. Yeah, and then that's interesting. So somebody answered the question already, but how do you decide, Kevin asked, how do you decide whether or not to put text on the screen? And then Brahma said, you can try both, see how it feels, and then check it the day after, right? Sometimes I have to sleep on something before I, know what feels right in the end, and then testing it with others. Yeah, yeah. Because oh my gosh, in the light of day, what I thought was a beautiful baby, I go, ooh,
It's kind of ugly.
yeah, you're not ready for picture day, baby. You are not ready for picture day. But so I think that's a great way to kind of talk about it. And I think there's a lot of decisions that get made in the writing act, but I'm sure the complexity of moving into, film. So Justin just replied that text or not depends on the length of text for me as well. So which is interesting because that's a visual aspect. And, the architecture of a poem on the written page to me is like very important. Like, what's the white space? What's the letters look like? And then you add to that, like the sonic architecture, the sound architecture of a poem, and then the complexity of doing the visual in addition. It just is amazing to me how immersive that experience feels for me as the listener, and the person experiencing that. I really enjoy the fact that y'all create this really immersive experience. Brahma had a question that I wanted to bring up to the whole group. How, though, or easy is it to explain what you make to people who aren't used to this type of art form yet? So, how do you talk about your craft, your art?
I let the visuals speak for themselves. I mean, the great thing about this art form is that people can see it and experience it, and usually they're in fairly small chunks. But the idea of poetry and film is fairly new, and there's people that like one or the other. But I think for me, it was such a natural thing to combine because I've been a filmmaker for a long time and a poet for a long time. But I've only combined the two really, really recently.
Yeah, yeah. Like me, yeah, yeah. I've been doing it for 4 years, the video poetry, or 5. So yeah, it's like that. I mean, if you love film and poetry and writing poetry, it's a natural way, like you say. It's a natural way to develop the art form and combining the two. So I don't know how to explain poetry or the combination of both. It's an art form. Yeah, I can explain it. I just do it.
Maybe to add to that, what is funny is I think spoken word, so we're from the Netherlands in Europe. It's quite new to the bigger audience. And if we show what we create or make, people try to define what it is and they use what they know. So some of them say, oh, it's like a movie, and others say, it's like a music video. And it's somewhere in between. And I think the genre is still being developed as we speak and as we are here now today. But I don't know, maybe Michiel can add to this, but it's so funny how it's interpreted. Also, when you talk about festivals over here, where we are trying to get our stuff admitted, and sometimes they get it, and sometimes they totally freaking don't. And that's the difficult thing. People need to define something to be able to compare it to something. And that's well, I find it quite difficult because they're not used to these hybrid forms yet, in my perspective.
There's one festival that is actually run by a friend of mine, and I wanted to enter my film, but they couldn't figure out what category to put me in. So I didn't enter. Can I jump back to something previous about having the words on the screen? I was watching that and I was thinking this is natural for people who write bilingual or want to work in translation, and you can have both dimensions and that cross-cultural conversation by using the visual as well as the words. And I hadn't thought of that before this.
What I really like about this medium is that you're combining moving images, you're combining poetry, you're combining music, you're taking so many different art forms and combining them into one work. And that's, to me, really the most exciting thing about this particular art form.
Photography too. Yeah.
I wanted to read what Kevin just wrote in the chat section. With most art forms, we have common cultural touchstones or frames of reference. It's a horror movie like Psycho. I don't expect most people have seen a particular video poem. And that's, I think that what y'all talking about is like the definition being in flux and in motion. And I love that dialogue that, it's like you said, Shyamalan, they didn't know what category to put you in.
I guess to put it another way, there is no wrong answer to this. What is the most famous video poem like that you would think anyone has seen? I'm trying to think of like McDonald's
Yes.
commercial.
Well, I mean, but Kevin, you're not wrong, because the majority of videos that I've seen are of people reading a particular poem. That's not a video poem. I know, like like Allen Ginsberg did a lot of poems kind of read with painting on glass, on window panes and things like that. But they're hard to come by, and it's not like they really like took off or hit a mark that resonated so deeply. People would say, have you seen this video poem by Allen Ginsberg? I mean, probably most people are going, I don't know what you're talking about. So good, good point. There isn't a frame of reference, and that matters.
But I'll give people a frame of reference by talking about Spalding Gray, actually, as like kind of a segue into what poetry is. He was a monologuist, if you don't know, but so he had films, and I would say Brahma's film kind of hits on like some of what he was doing in some of his HBO specials, where there was a mix of his storytelling and dramatization of it. So that's the way. Like he worked with Steven Soderbergh on the film Grey's Anatomy. And so there you have like people are starting to like, oh, Steven Soderbergh, or you can bring up some of his films and they're like, maybe I do understand this. Sorry, I just got to chat.
That's awesome. And somebody just said, if you could put the link in of what you're talking about, Justin, if you don't mind.
Sure, I'll
the
look
link,
up.
or you can send it to me and I'll make sure it gets out to everybody.
Thank you
I
so
just
much
realized,
for that.
yeah, and that way we don't miss, an opportunity to kind of bring the conversation into that concreteness.
Can I jump in for a second?
Commercial use?
Because
Yes,
I did
ma'am.
something very rude when I was talking about my poem. The musician who helped me is on this call, and I didn't mention his name. So Joe McMahon, thank you.
Yeah, I was looking for Joe because you had said that Joe was here, and I was looking for him. So Joe, thank you for collaborating with Shyamalan. Joe McManahan. Yep. Awesome. Thank you. And so here is the grace, and that we'll put that in there. Thank you, Justin. I'm gonna put it so that everybody has access to it. And Brahma, you asked for this link. That should get us to it. Well, that just made me think of a poem that went viral. Oh gosh, Good Bones, Maggie. It was on Madam President. Does everybody remember this? Oh gosh. So, her poem went viral. But that was just, a spoken word. So yeah. Anne, you have your hand raised. I'm coming to you.
Yes. I don't want to backtrack. I appreciate what you were just talking about. Is it okay if I go back to the words on screen?
Do it. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I think for me that also speaks to this inchoate, really indeterminate, very hard to find thing that is video poetry or poetry film, that is always negotiating the relationship between words and images, where sometimes the words are the images as well, as others have mentioned. And I also wanted to just quickly say that I found myself more and more, whether or not I include visual textuality, always including hard-coded subtitles. Even when I have a piece in English, I have English subtitles, sometimes also closed captions, as many festivals want them. But I'm also really loving that additional layer and the possibilities for more accessibility of the piece.
Awesome. And I love that dual purposing there. Wait, this, boy, I wish we had another hour for conversation because I feel like we're just getting into, things that to me are so important. And it's the synergy that I feel when I'm in the company of other artists. So I just want to thank you for being such amazing company. We
If
are
the
at
workshop was
time,
done
we're
as a
heading towards time.
conversation,
Yes.
if the workshop
no-
that you're thinking of was done as a conversation,
Yes.
that would be
So
a
we
lot of
are
learning
open
right
again.
there.
So we've got about 15 more minutes. So I want to keep, going on with the questions. I think I just missed one. And I wanted to say also, people have been, yes, Kevin, jump in.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. You finish your statement, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, make sure you check the chat section because the links to all these videos that we've talked about are being put in there. People are doing a fabulous job. So Good Bones is in there. Another YouTube. And then also, the original one we were talking about. Coming back to you, Kevin.
I just wanted to loop back to something. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Shamala?
Close enough.
I'm sorry. Can you tell me how I should say it?
Shamala?
Shamala. You mentioned a film festival, didn't know where to put it. I submitted Dracula's Super Scary Halloween to a film festival as a horror comedy, and the organizer actually came back and they're like, you would have a much better chance of getting in if you submit this as an animation.
Yeah.
And I said, and this is like the business of film festivals. I was like, oh, can you just recategorize it? No, but if you pay the money, you can resubmit it as and then it won the award for best animation. And it's from what I understand, just anecdotally, there are fewer animated films being made, and that makes it a premium. So from that day forward, I started submitting it mostly as an animated work when I had the opportunity. But I think when it comes to like gaming the system or whatever, I think we have to either seek out film festivals that do have a category for video poetry, or Victor, I said in the chat, there are festivals where they will say, we want, a movie that was solely shot with an iPhone. So I think if part of what we're trying to do, besides being artists who are expressing ourselves and connecting with the community, if we want to get our films into film festivals, we have to like learn from each other and compare notes about what are the best ways to navigate submitting films to film festivals.
Well, I've been in about 300 film festivals. So let me give you some ideas. First, there are a lot of film festivals that have under 3-minute videos. And so that's an area, if you have a shorter poem, where you can be competitive. It's really hard to get into a festival that has 4 categories and one of them is short film and you put your film in. It's just so hard to win in those, or even to get accepted in those, because they're really, really competitive. But there are film festivals on a site called Film Freeway. They've got thousands upon thousands of film festivals listed there. It's free. I'm not doing a commercial for them, but it's free to get on there. And you can sort by the different kinds of categories that they have at their festival. And there are actually more poetry film festivals than you would expect. I probably have seen 30 or so. But there's lots of film festivals that have, an under 3-minute category. A few have a 1-minute category if you've got something shorter. And let me just tell you, as a filmmaker, it's really hard to make a good film in under 3 minutes, and really hard to make a 1-minute film. So if you have works that are a little bit shorter, they can be competitive and get into those festivals.
I don't know how to put my hand up on the.
Oh, you're good. Jump in.
Okay, and I also try. I have a profile on Film Freeway. It worked for a year now, and I try all the video poetry film festivals that I could. But I also tried. I was selected in a couple of them. Video art or experimental, even though it's video poetry or a video poem. Sometimes some festivals could say, okay, it's a video art or is experimental, and you're in. You know? In
And
my
there are a lot,
experience.
and there are a lot of underground and avant-garde and experimental film festivals, and you can just search avant-garde, you know, or underground, and they're very open to things that are different. They're actually looking for things that are different. And if you add, you know, those three categories to music video and then under 3 minutes, that means there's, you know, probably a 500 or 600 film festivals that your film might be able to fit in as video poetry.
Exactly. Yes.
That is helpful information. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I didn't know that there was that many out there. Kevin had a question specifically for you, Justin. Do programmers ever break your movie into smaller installments?
I wrote him back. I said that's never happened to me, but I've only made shorts that are about 10 minutes or less. So most of like even the narrative shorts I've made have only been about 6 minutes. So
it's also interesting to hear that you know, send in under one category and they say, well, you could put it in this category. That's not something that we have as you know, as written poets, written words poets.
Well, that's pretty rare that will happen. I mean, that means that they really like this film, but that's really rare because they'll get thousands and thousands of entries in some of these, and getting that is really rare and hard to do.
That's interesting. Rama had another question just for everybody as a whole. How do you perceive commercial use or appliance of your art form?
No such thing.
Yeah, no.
No such thing.
I think just gaining a work ethic of like setting a deadline, meeting a deadline, learning to do a revision. When I do corporate jobs, I'll do like corporate copywriting or video production. I'm very careful to never put my name on the script so that when I'm writing a draft, I don't think it's a film by Kevin Marr. This is for Taco Bell. You know, this is for whoever the is. So I think just everything we've done has not just made us better artists, but it's like learning to just do whatever you want to do in a commercial capacity. We already know how to like do a rewrite, do a revision, take notes, give feedback, you know. So I think just the process of filmmaking you can apply to any number of like commercial projects.
It's interesting how a lot of people are like hell no, and I think it would be really cool if you were hired as an artist to still have your freedom to still, but they respect that, or they honor that, and they say we want to make like what one of our aims as Cola and Ramsudit is to be asked or to be invited as a artistic duo to give our spin to whatever cause or whatever, and if it feels right, and if it's aligned with our personal preferences, of course, then it would be really cool to use this art form in a commercial way, because then it would also get more known as an art form. I have a dream that one day that would be really cool.
I believe there is a couple of.
Go ahead, Victor.
I believe out of Chicago is a place that has micro streaming of video poetry. I need to get back, and I will send you in the same email with the apps that place for the video poetry streaming or whatever.
That would be good information, and I always felt like at some point, just like MTV, there could be video poems, you know. I really felt like that there was a time where people would, and I still think that people would be very open to it. Much like what Regina's saying is that now there are multiple poetry journals that accept poetry videos, and they have a YouTube channels embedded into their online journals. So one example of that would be, and I want to go back to the South Florida Poetry Journal. So that might be another avenue for sending out your work. Celestine said she has a poet friend who's made dozens of his poems made into films and stage productions by other artists. Okay. Yeah. Well, you're right, Brahma. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. And I suppose that, that's not, I've run Redheaded Stepchild. There is something that, we could do like that. And that may inspire me because, it's something that I feel very passionate about. And I have to say, having spent time with each of your films for a while and watching them multiple times, that the experience kind of compounds on itself or creates more layers. And I like that. I admire that. Yes, poetry videos.
If you give me a moment, is that I was kind of helped to co-create for a North Carolina Literary Review, which is really known literary magazine in this part of the country, really regionally. And I talked them into doing basically a poetry contest. So where you can send in your poems and you can be, basically poetry film. You can either create a film, or it can be just you standing there reading it or whatever. And it actually would be a part of their publication, their online publication. So if I did in this little bitty in Greenville, North Carolina, as part of East Carolina University, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thinking the same way.
One thing about production, let me just ask people that are interested in doing video poems. Like Victor did, my iPhone is better than cameras I spent $25,000 on 20 years ago. So the things that you can do with an iPhone, and the new versions actually got good sound. The sound used to not be very good, but you can just, like Victor did, you can pick up your phone and edit on your phone and shoot on your phone.
Yes.
And you can make an entire film just on your phone, front to back. Now, it's not going to be the greatest quality on the sound and stuff. Those things are a lot harder to do, and you got to offline it like Victor did. But there are actually free or nearly free video editing tools out there that you can download onto your PC.
Yeah.
So this is the greatest time on earth to be a filmmaker, period, because it used to only be people that had tens of or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And just like Victor did, you can pick up your phone and go out and make a film now. And so if you have the passion and the equipment, at least, is so much more accessible than it's ever been, ever.
Yeah. Plus, guys, for the iPhone, if you go, I'm not doing a promotions for Amazon, okay? But if you go into Amazon, you can buy all sorts of gadgets for the iPhone to film, to shoot. Like lenses, a mini
Steadicam rigs, everything.
You can find anything. A mini dolly. Yeah, everything. A Jimmy Jim. Like a little crane. I mean, it's I'm gonna start buying. I already buy a couple of stuff, but I need more. And also, it's an app, guys. The audio, you can buy the mics, the lapel, yeah. And also you can buy. It's an app, and I believe it was a film that was shoot completely on iPhone with that app in particular. It has a free version and a pay one, and it's amazing. In that app, it's like you have a film camera in your hands, shooting at 4K. Yeah, it's amazing. The technology nowadays. I mean, I'm 59, guys, but I'm enjoying the technology and everything.
I mean, it makes me kind of excited just hearing y'all talk about it. Yeah. So Brahma said another nice thing we've learned, like with the remark talking about animated section, we've discovered that with this Western movie, there are hold on, I just lost it. Can you talk about that, Brahma, with that?
So we live in the Netherlands in Europe, and next month we are going to Spain because we are selected for a Western Film Festival over there.
Nice.
And yeah, freaking, I'm not allowed to swear, right? It's America.
You're fine.
Oh, it's artistic. It's artistic freedom. Yeah. So our first movie, it It's 1.5 minutes. It's on our YouTube. It had hints of a science fiction thing, but that could be the interpretation. This is very dead on spaghetti western type of thing. Like Michiel is fan of Clint Eastwood, and now it got selected specifically by a Western festival where all these great Western movies back in the day were made. And that's, I think, also a nice lead in for you guys, like with the animated thing. Pick where you want to, pick the
genre. Choose a genre. We don't have
Yeah,
a chance in normal short film section. We don't get selected. But in the specific Western or sometimes video poetry, sometimes experimental. But just in the short film section, we don't have a chance. Because
No,
people don't.
and that's because they
Yeah.
get hundreds of thousands of entries in some of those festivals in that category. Yeah.
I love this discussion. And Shamala was saying, maybe we need a nonprofit that, really is passionate about video poems and really lifts up and makes space for this form.
Malika, actually, what I meant
You never
was,
know what comes out.
sorry, I can't figure out where the raise your hand button is. But Brahma was saying about like hoping for a commercial opportunity where some organization would, not Taco Bell, but someone else would say, bring your video poetry skills and do something for us. And I was just wondering about the sort of the small out of the box nonprofits that might be open to a creative pitch if you find the right person to talk to.
I was just watching a really good film about a guy that's done that sort of stuff. And so for instance, if you do a film about grief, or a poem about grief, there are organizations that are dealing with that and helping people deal with that. Then you can go to those organizations and maybe they give you a little funding or at least create a platform for your work to be seen, or you go to a conference and show it there. And so, if you're dealing with a certain social issue in particular, like I know one of the films is about climate change, then there may be organizations out there that would at least platform your work, if not maybe fund your next film.
That's a very good point, because it is part of your body of work, and particularly something, Shamala, like grief, much like when I was writing so much about Alzheimer's, there were it's suddenly other avenues as opposed to my traditional kind of poetry things. There was other organizations that were interested because of the topic. So, again, it's that finding the place that you fit and maybe thinking outside the box as an artist. But I love the idea of a nonprofit or reaching out to nonprofits that might be interested in that. And that there are magazines that are starting to have this, much like Celestine was saying about North Carolina Literary Review, allowing video poems up on what has been traditionally a printed magazine.
And
one quick thing, I just want to do this for Victor. Victor, there are a bunch of film festivals that used to have COVID-19 or pandemic categories. I have a film that won 32 awards just for that category, and they're going away fast, but there's still some of them out there.
Yeah, I saw them. But guess what? I didn't send them to anyone that's like COVID-19. For real, I saw them. Yeah. But I will check it out again. I will give them another pass. I was sending to the video poetry specifically, But
Yeah. And y'all are now got Shamala off and running with a lot of different, this is awesome. I love like the giving ideas to each other. And that's so, going back to the theme of balancing between, solitude and collaboration, so much of what we do is in solitude, is a very internal, but in collaboration or in conversation with each other, there's always these sparks that go back and forth. And it's why I'm so deeply committed to creating community and giving opportunities for us to be together, because this is where you hear about ideas that you may not come up with. Brahma?
Yeah. So one question that came up to me, like with the question about the poetry channel or the nonprofit world, like Shamala asked. What I also find interesting is like, who are we doing it for? Of course, for ourselves as artists, but to which audience are we trying to convey a message? And it's that's something Michiel and I discuss quite oftenly. Is it art for art and art for the artsy people, or is it? I like, because I come from a pop culture background. I listen to the Backstreet Boys. I was dancing to all that stuff, even though people thought you were crazy. But I like things to be very um, accessible, even if it maybe becomes a bit, one might say, cheap or easy. But I like to bring poetry in the field of every man's game instead of just for the other artists, with all with no disrespect to you all, but it would be so nice to bring it out of this realm, because then other people would also get to enjoy a piece of this.
But you don't have to be one thing or the other. You can be broadband and do things that have a general accessibility, or maybe you've got a poem that's to a very specific audience. I noticed somebody mentioned cancer survivors, or people that have children with Down syndrome. I mean, there are so these target audiences that could be very much helped by your poetry and your experience. And there's nothing that says you can't do both of those things with different works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would probably have to be different works, I think, if you want to speak to a broader audience. Rather than speaking to artists and poets, if you want to speak to, say, everybody who has dealt with X, then the way in which you speak to it, like Brahma said, more for a mass audience.
Yeah, you could have the same topic but different spin-offs or different versions.
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
would be interesting to play with that, to see what works or what would resonate. Um,
Again, we're
actually,
back to kind of the idea of asking, of having others' insight, it's amazing how when I rewrite, because I'm less of a writer and more of a rewriter, when I rewrite and have a chance to work with my poetry community that we meet in a critique group, I'm always amazed with what resonates with people, or what lines speak and what ones just, kind of don't, that I think were pivotal, and I go, oh, that's maybe not where it needs to be. It can be cut and used another time. So it's interesting to see in different audiences, different ways. For a while, a lot of poems that I saw as kind of Rubik's cubes were very popular, and I can see the appeal. I like things that kind of take me out of trying to make sense in a narrative way or in a lyric way. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Shamala. I'm on that cue. But then, also poems that open up doors and allow and welcome you into the experience. What is accessibility? What is complexity? And you can kind of play with those. But for me, as a writer, the key there is the authenticity. Justin and I were talking before we got started, and he was talking about poems that were like close to the bone or had a vulnerability. That's something that I like to see in people's work, and each of y'all had a way of bringing me into something that is authentically very true in different ways that you did that. And I think that's what, for me as a human being, I'm moved by most. And each of your work tonight was an example of that depth and that resonance and that integrity, that honesty that I admire. Which brings me back to just thank you. Thank you for being out there doing your work. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all. And Celestine, I know you're not going to come on, but I love you dearly. Thank you for doing this for 10 years and creating this space.
Thank you so much to all of you. It's just really warms my heart to just see you and hear your thoughts. And you've given me a dozen ideas just listening to you. And I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys be well. I'll be sending out the chat section to all of y'all. Yes, Brahma.
Yeah.
We're gonna start our own MTV. See y'all And thank you again.
I will send you the email. Bye-bye.
Perfect. I'll pass it along.
Love to all of you people. Greetings
Bye,
from the
guys.
Netherlands, Europe. Whoop.
Yes.